Before the first leaf of the Camellia sinensis plant was ever steeped in Japan, tea arrived as a medicinal elixir, carried over mountain passes and sea lanes from distant China. It was prized in early Japanese courts for its purported ability to clear the mind and invigorate the body. Yet over centuries, tea's role transformed, from imperial remedy to the quiet centerpiece of a spiritual practice known as Chado, or the way of tea. In this chapter, we trace tea's journey into Japanese culture, explore the aesthetic philosophy of wabi-sabi that shaped its ceremony, and meet the visionary artisan Sen no Rikyu, who distilled tea gatherings into an art of mindful simplicity. From medicine to meditation. The earliest records of tea in Japan date to the mid-9th century, when Buddhist monks returning from studies in China brought back dried tea leaves wrapped in paper. Called tencha, this compressed steamed leaf was first prepared as a tonic, ground into powder by stone mills and whisked into a frothy drink, believed to dispel lethargy and sharpen concentration. Temples in Nara and Kyoto installed small tea gardens, precursors to the roji tea garden, where monks cultivated the plants and used tea in meditation sessions. By the 12th century, tea's popularity spread beyond monastic walls. The monk Isai, 1141-1215, penned Kisa Yojoki, drinking tea for health, extolling tea's virtue in preventing fatigue, alleviating digestive ailments, and enhancing mental clarity. He sent tencha seeds to Shogun Minamoto no Yoritomo's court, where tea ceremonies began to take root among samurai and aristocrats. No longer solely medicinal, tea became a symbol of status and refined taste, served in ornate Chinese bowls and accompanied by elegant poetry readings. The rise of Cha-no-yu. It was in the tumult of the 15th, 16th centuries, an era of warring daimyo, feudal lords, that the tea gathering transformed from lavish display to a more austere, disciplined ritual. The merchant and warrior class sought respite from conflict, and tea ceremonies provided a space of calm discernment. Here, amidst tatami-lined rooms and subdued ink paintings, participants would move in choreographed silence, sharing a single bowl of matcha as an exercise in equality and mutual respect. This period saw the emergence of cha-no-yu, literally hot water for tea, but understood as an elaborate, almost theatrical ritual. Each gesture, the measured bow, the graceful handling of utensils, the precise pouring of water, became laden with meaning. Tea hosts trained for years under masters, perfecting the choreography until each motion felt both natural and contemplative. Wabi-sabi, beauty in imperfection. Central to Chado's evolution was an aesthetic philosophy now known as wabi-sabi, which values simplicity, impermanence, and the beauty found in imperfection. Where earlier tea gatherings prized Chinese imported ceramics and gilded surroundings, the new ideal embraced humble materials, rough-handed bowls, earthen walls, and weathered bamboo utensils. Cracks, uneven glazes, and asymmetrical forms spoke of nature's hand and invited participants to find serenity in the unadorned. This shift mirrored the Zen Buddhist underpinnings of Chado. In Zen teachings, the world is seen as transient, every moment unique and unrecoverable. Tea ceremonies became a moving meditation on impermanence, each bowl of tea served once and never repeated. A chipped tea bowl was not a flaw, but a testament to the passage of time, a reminder that beauty and transience are intertwined. Sen no Rikyu, architect of the way. No figure looms larger in Chado history than Sen no Rikyu, 1822-1591. Born into a merchant family in Sakai, Rikyu served as tea master to powerful warlords, including Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Yet his true legacy was his profound reimagining of Chado, distilled into 4 guiding principles. Wa, harmony, between host and guest, utensils and surroundings, human and nature. Kei, respect, for each participant, each object, and the moment itself. Sei, purity, of heart, environment, and ritual space, cleanliness as spiritual preparation. Jaku, tranquility, an inner stillness cultivated through mindful practice. Rikyu favored small tea houses, often no larger than a single tatami mat, enclosed by earthen walls and approached through a simple roji garden. Inside, sliding shoji screens filtered light to a soft glow, and the hearth's crackle provided a gentle counterpoint to the quiet. His choice of utensils, a modest, unglazed raku bowl here, a weathered bamboo scoop there, reinforced the sense that the ceremony was an encounter with authenticity rather than display. The first tea houses. Accounts tell of Rikyu's final tea house, Taion, built in 1582 in Myokian temple grounds near Kyoto. The design was radical for its time, a 3 tatami mat interior so cramped that host and guest shared the same elbow space. This intimacy enforced humility. No one could assert dominance or distance. The tobacco-colored walls, low entrance, nijiriguchi, and bare wooden beams erased social hierarchies. Everyone entered on hands and knees, leaving ego at the threshold. Rikyu wrote that the tea house must be like a bird's nest, offering shelter without artifice. Guests were encouraged to contemplate the simple vase holding a single sprig of seasonal bloom, and to find delight in the bowl's uneven glaze or the bamboo whisk's subtle curve. Every detail was chosen to encourage mindful presence. Tea in turbulent times. Paradoxically, Chado's height under Rikyu coincided with the chaos of warring states. Tea gatherings served as neutral ground. Lords and their retainers would set aside weapons, don humble robes, and join in silent communion. In the hush of the tea room, the world's turmoil receded, replaced by the measured rhythm of water heating and tea whisking. Even as armies marched outside, the tea house remained a sanctuary of equanimity. Yet Rikyu's influence aroused envy among the powerful. In 1591, Hideyoshi ordered Rikyu to commit ritual suicide, citing obscure offenses. Rikyu's death at 59 cemented his status as a spiritual martyr, a final act of unwavering fidelity to tea's austere ethos. Legacy and lineage. After Rikyu's passing, his disciples, particularly the 3 Sen families, Ura-senkei, Omote-senkei, Mushakoji-senkei, preserved his teachings, codifying procedures and training generations of tea masters. Each lineage emphasized different aspects. One focused on the purity of the water, another on the art of flower arrangement, and a third on regional variations of tea utensils. But all revered Rikyu's core principles of wa, kei, sei, jaku. Over the centuries, Chado evolved, absorbing influences from No theater, calligraphy, and poetry. Yet its heart remained unchanged, a practice of mindfulness transmitted bowl by bowl, breath by breath. Reflections on origins. As we conclude this chapter, consider how Chado's humble beginnings continue to inform its practice today. Every tea house built, every bowl formed, and every whisk carved stands in dialogue with that first medicinal brew brought from China centuries ago. In each gathering, participants renew a lineage of contemplation, honoring impermanence by embracing it, discovering harmony in simplicity, and finding tranquility in shared silence. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, imagine stepping through a moss-lined roji at dawn, footsteps hushed, moss cool under sandals. Enter a small tea room whose walls are tinted by filtered light, where a solitary vase cradles a plum blossom. Feel the quiet expectancy as water heats in an iron kettle. Smell the faint echo of incense and await the single bowl of tea offered with deep respect. In that moment, you join the mosaic of tea's history, one more seeker at the threshold of serenity. In the quiet recesses of Kyoto's hillsides, beyond the bustle of paved streets and crowded temples, lie sanctuaries of hushed beauty, the Sukiya-style tea houses and their attendant roji gardens. Here, every stone, every plant, and every shoji screen participates in a carefully orchestrated symphony of simplicity and grace. In this chapter, we explore the architectural principles that guide the Sukiya aesthetic, wander the winding roji paths that prepare the spirit for ceremony, examine the humble materials, tatami, bamboo, clay, and earthen walls, and meet a master carpenter whose hands have shaped countless tea rooms in the image of wabi-sabi quietude. Sukiya architecture, foundations of simplicity. The term Sukiya, Suki-ya, literally abode of refined taste, denotes the architectural style favored for tea houses. Emerging in the late Muromachi period, 14th to 16th centuries, under the influence of Sen no Rikyu, Sukiya emphasizes asymmetry, natural materials, and a seamless blending of interior and exterior. Unlike grand palatial pavilions with imported tiles and gilded ornament, Sukiya tea houses favor subdued, earthen roofs, low eaves, and walls of simple clay or rough timber. Key architectural principles. Ma, space and interval. Sukiya design treats negative space, empty alcoves, open corners, and the pauses between beams as integral to the whole. These intervals allow the eye and mind to rest, fostering a contemplative atmosphere. Shakkei, borrowed scenery. Tea house windows and openings are placed to frame distant vistas, sloping hills, swaying bamboo groves, or the soft curve of a pond, bringing the outer landscape into the room as living artwork. Yohaku no bi, beauty of blankness. Walls are left unadorned or punctuated by a single scroll or vase. The empty surfaces emphasize the chosen object, elevating it from decoration to focal point and reinforcing the ceremony's minimalism. Proportion and scale. Tea rooms are often built on a tatami mat grid, with alcoves, hearths, and windows aligned to mat dimensions. Scale is human-centered. Low ceilings encourage humility. Small entrance doors require guests to bow as they enter, nijiraguchi, symbolically shedding ego. The roji, a garden of the spirit. Before one enters the tea house proper, one traverses the roji, or dewy ground. This garden is not an ornamental display, but a liminal space, engineered to shift the mind from the mundane world to the focused practice of tea. As tea master Sen no Rikyu wrote, the roji separates dust from dust. It is a threshold that clears thought and readies the heart for ceremony. Design elements of the roji include stepping stones, tobi ishi, placed at irregular intervals to slow the walker's pace, encouraging mindful attention to each step. Stones vary in shape and texture, rounded river stones, rough-hewn granite, or weathered slate, so that the sensation underfoot remains dynamic. Moss beds, soft carpets of varied moss species, Himalayan sweet moss, Hypnum pallidum, Irish moss, Schizyamenia dubi, and others grow between stones, lending a living softness that contrasts with harder surfaces. Moss thrives in shaded, moist conditions, symbolizing endurance and gentleness. Lanterns, toro. Stone lanterns, ikedoro near ponds or yukinidoro near seating areas, provide subtle illumination for evening gatherings. Their carved openings cast dancing patterns on moss and water. Water basin, tsukubai. A low stone basin receives a trickle of fresh spring water. Guests stoop to purify hands and mouth before entering the tea house, reinforcing physical and spiritual cleansing. Planting choices. Evergreen shrubs, bamboo, Japanese maple, and shade-loving ground covers are selected for subdued colors and seasonal interest. Bright blossoms are avoided in favor of muted hues, dusky greens, soft silvers, and autumnal reds that fade gently into winter. In walking the roji, one learns stillness through movement. Each step becomes a ritual, each breath a deliberate pause. Sightlines are choreographed so that glimpses of the tea house appear only at the journey's end, heightening anticipation and focus. Materials of tranquility. Sukiya architecture and roji design share a reverence for materials that age gracefully, those that reveal the passing of seasons and years. 4 elements stand at the heart of the tea house. Tatami mats. Crafted from woven igusa straw and filled with rice husk core, tatami impart a soft, yielding surface for kneeling. Edged in cloth, often plain or with simple geometric patterns, they define room dimensions and invite barefoot presence. The scent of fresh tatami evokes early summer mornings, while aged mats bear subtle impressions of past ceremonies. Bamboo, take. Bamboo frames tea house eaves, constructs railings, and forms the whisk, chasen, and chashaku. Selected from groves in Shizuoka or Kyushu, poles are cured, split, and shaved using hand tools. Bamboo's natural nodes and color variations are celebrated, not concealed, highlighting the material's organic origins. Clay walls, wajima or earthen finishes. Walls are built of wattle and daub techniques, woven bamboo lath coated with layers of clay, sand, and straw. Final coatings yield a subtle texture, rough to the touch yet tender to the eye. Over time, walls develop hairline cracks and slight unevenness, each mark a record of shifting seasons and the tea house's quiet life. Wood joinery. Pillars of hinoki cypress, beams of suji cedar, and sliding shoji frames are assembled without nails, using mortise and tenon joints that flex with moisture changes. Exposed joinery details are left visible, their precise craftsmanship a testament to the carpenter's skill. Profile: Master Carpenter Katsuro Tanaka. In a modest workshop on Kyoto's outskirts, 70-year-old Katsuro Tanaka still practices the art of joinery exactly as he learned from his father. His weathered hands bear calluses earned from decades of chiseling and planing suji and hinoki timber. Tanaka-san was raised in a family of temple carpenters, constructing altars and pagodas. But after apprenticing under a Sukiya specialist, he dedicated his life to crafting tea houses in the image of wabi-sabi quietude. Early life and training. Born in 1955, Tanaka grew up amid sawdust and temple chant. At age 15, he began formal apprenticeship under Master Suzuki, one of the last surviving Sukiya carpenters whose lineage extended to Rikyu's era. There, Tanaka learned to respect the wood's grain, to listen for the sound of a plane shaving a perfect curl, and to see beauty in slight irregularity. Philosophy of craft. When you shape a tea house, he says, you shape the mind of those who enter it. For Tanaka, every carved pillar and sliding door carries intention. He studies each site's topography, light patterns, and surrounding flora before drafting a layout. His drawings are simple lines, no flourishes, yet they contain layers of knowledge about scale, proportion, and human movement. Signature works. Seijaku-an, a hermitage of quietude. A 2-tatami tea room hidden in a bamboo grove, renowned for its low, curved rafters that draw the eye inward. Korente, a summer tea pavilion built over a reflective pond, with floorboards that float just above the water's surface. Tanaka's hands shape not just buildings, but experiences. A guest entering one of his rooms feels guided towards stillness before a single ribbon of calligraphy is revealed in the tokonoma, and before the iron kettle's first breath of steam. Tokonoma and seasonal displays. Within every tea room lies the tokonoma, a shallow alcove that serves as the ceremony's visual focal point. Here, a single scroll hangs, often inscribed with a Zen phrase or seasonal haiku, and a simple flower arrangement, chabana, rests in a rustic vase. The tokonoma's design follows strict proportions. Its width spans precisely 2 tatami mats, its depth 1, and its height accommodates the scroll's painted space plus a measured margin. Seasonal rotation is central. In spring, a sprig of cherry blossoms. In summer, a single iris. In autumn, a spray of red maple. In winter, a bare branch of pine or plum. The scroll's text and imagery harmonize with the plant, inviting reflection on impermanence and cyclical renewal. By limiting decorations to 1 or 2 elements, the tokonoma embodies the Tsukiya principle of yohaku no bi, the beauty of blankness. Light and shadow, the dance of shoji. Shoji screens, wooden lattices over translucent washi paper, filter natural light into a gentle glow. The lattice patterns vary: grids of square meshes, koshi, diagonal lattices, yari, or hexagonal weaves, kikuman. Encradle each implement in my hands as if greeting an old friend, feeling its weight, its texture, and the subtle warmth left by countless ceremonies past. In Chado, the beauty of the ritual depends on these 4 companions: the chawan that holds the tea, the chasen that whisks it into life, the chashaku that measures it with grace, and the kama that delivers its heat. Today, I invite you behind my workshop doors to witness how raw earth, bamboo, and iron transform under attentive craft into vessels of tranquility. Meeting the 4 pillars of ceremony. Before I draw water from the kettle, I lay out my essentials. Chawan, my tea bowl. Its rounded form, shaped by fire and touch, becomes the stage on which matcha's emerald hues dance. Chasen, the bamboo whisk, its tines split and curled by careful carving, breathes froth into each bowl. Chashaku, the slender bamboo scoop, curved like a calligrapher's stroke, measures the precise whisper of powder. Kama, the iron kettle, its patina earned through decades of heat, sings with a clear ring when water is ready. Each tool finds its place beside me on the tatami, silent yet alive with potential. The soul of the tea bowl. I trace the bowl's lip with my thumb, noting the glaze's crackle, a testament to the fire's caprice. My own chawan comes from a raku kiln, where pottery masters fire each piece by hand. I remember the day I first shaped it, hand-building the form. I worked coarse clay in my palms, coaxing it into a subtle asymmetry that feels natural in my grasp. No wheel spun that shape. It rose from my breath and intention. Trimming the foot. When the clay hardened to leather hard, I carved the foot with a simple tool, creating a gentle rise that lifts the bowl from the tatami. Glazing and firing. I watched a master pull the glowing bowl from the kiln at its peak, then plunge it into rice straw, where smoke ghosted along the glaze, forming veins of silver crackle. The sudden cool transformed earth into poetry. Now I rotate the bowl slowly, studying how light and shadow play upon its surface. In its irregularities, I find wabi-sabi's quiet invitation to presence. The whisper of bamboo, chasen and chashaku. Next, I lift the chasen, each tine a slender testament to patience. Harvesting the cane. I travel in winter to Shikoku's groves, selecting poles where the bamboo's grain sings a clear tone when tapped. Splitting the tines. With a razor-sharp knife, I split the upper half of the stalk into 16 fine tines, each one requiring the lightest touch to avoid fracture. Shaping and binding. I curl and space the tines around a central core, binding them with a thin bamboo ring. The process feels like weaving breath into wood. Holding the finished whisk between thumb and forefinger, I test its flexibility, knowing that a single misaligned tine can change the tea's froth. Beside it, my cha-shaku rests, carved from a single sliver of bamboo. Selecting the sliver, I choose a piece just beneath the node, slender, straight-grained, and free of knots. Carving the curve. With gentle, guided strokes, I sculpt the scoop's arc, ensuring it holds exactly 2 grams of matcha. Burnishing the surface. I smooth the surface against a river stone until the bamboo's natural pattern gleams. Each time I measure powder into the bowl, I feel the cha-shaku's silent poetry. The heart's heart, kama. Finally, I approach the kama, its iron body patinaed by years of service. Casting the form. In a northern forge, artisans pour molten iron into sand molds crafted from clay impressions. The kettle emerges heavy, its seams rough yet full of character. Hammering and fitting. I watch as they file and hammer the spout into perfect flow, fitting the lid so steam escapes in a gentle hiss. Seasoning the surface. Over dozens of ceremonies, soot and oil meld into a living patina, each swirl of rust and black telling the story of past gatherings. I lift the kettle's handle, feeling its warmth and solidity. When I tap its side with the ladle, the clear note reverberates, signaling to me and to my guests that the water is ready. My profiles in craft. I owe much to 2 artisans who shaped my appreciation for these tools. Hiro Nakamura, raku potter. In his kiln's glow, I learned that a bowl's life unfolds in the unpredictable fracture of glaze and the smoky embrace of straw. He taught me to shape in a single breath. Hesitation clouds the clay's soul. Aiko Sato, bamboo craftsman. In her shikoku workshop, I felt the bamboo's grain. She showed me that splitting must follow the cane's whisper. Where it resists, pull gently. Where it yields, guide firmly. From them, I inherited more than technique. I inherited reverence for material and a commitment to hands-on devotion. Ceremony with tools. When I host, the tools become extensions of my awareness. Preparing the cha-shaku, I bow, touch the fukusa to its surface, and lift it with 2 fingers, a silent vow of respect. Warming the chawan, I pour hot water from the kama, swirling inside to warm the bowl, then pour it into the wastewater vessel, purifying both bowl and spirit. Whisking the matcha. As I blend powder and water, I feel the cha-sen's tines bend, releasing gentle foam. My breaths synchronize with each whisk stroke. Offering the bowl, I turn the chawan toward the guest, inviting them to receive it so its front faces them, the highest courtesy. In these gestures, the chawan, cha-sen, cha-shaku, and kama speak through me, guiding host and guest into a shared moment of stillness. Reflections on crafted silence. Each time I lay out these utensils, I pause to honor their journeys, from earth, grove, and forge to my hands, and now to your imagination. In their textures, I feel the passage of seasons. In their forms, the imprint of human devotion. I first learned the scent of spring before I ever left the tea fields. Dawn's light was just brushing the horizon when I slipped between the shaded rows of Camellia sinensis, my fingers brushing the dew-damp leaves. Here, in Uji's rolling hills, time slows. Each breath tastes of earth and promise. Over the coming hours, I want to share with you the path that these vibrant leaves travel, from shade-grown bushes to the stone-ground powder we know as matcha. This is their journey, and it has become mine. In the tea grove at dawn, my day begins before the sun fully rises. I step onto the narrow path that winds through the tea groves, the soil yielding softly under my sandals. Taller trees flank the rows, camphor and cedar that cast a gentle shade over the tea bushes. This canopy is crucial. Under its filtered light, the leaves develop higher chlorophyll levels, deepening their green and enriching their umami flavor. With each step, I inhale the cool, misty air. The leaves glisten. Each droplet holds a tiny world of reflected sky. I pause at a low-hanging branch and lift a leaf to my lips. Its surface is cool, its fibers firm. I taste that first vegetable hint. Bitter, yes, but alive with potential. I tuck my basket under one arm and begin the careful harvest. Harvesting by hand. Harvesting matcha-grade leaves remains an art. Machines can strip entire fields in minutes, but here I use only my hands and a small shears. I seek the top 2 leaves and the bud, the most tender parts. With a swift, precise motion, I snip each stem, letting the cut leaf flutter into my basket. The rhythm is steady. Snip, place, move, repeat. My back begins to ache, but I hardly notice. Focus narrows to the gentle crack of stems and the basket's growing weight. Around me, other pickers work in silent harmony. We exchange nods, a shared acknowledgement of the day's first labor. No words pass between us. The grove's hush is our conversation. Occasionally, a bird's call or a distant crow punctuates the stillness, reminding me that the world beyond our rows remains alive and awake. By mid-morning, my basket brims with bright green leaves. I carry them to the processing shed, a simple wooden structure warmed by the sun. Here begins the next phase, preserving the leaves' vitality. Inside the steaming chamber, a gentle hiss greets me. A perforated tray holds my freshly picked leaves, and a bamboo lid covers them. I pull the lever and steam floods the chamber for precisely 20 seconds. The leaves wilt slightly, their color deepening to a lustrous jade. Steam halts oxidation, locking in antioxidants and that distinctive umami sweetness. When the timer clicks, I lift the lid, and a plume of fragrant steam rises. I close my eyes and breathe the aroma, sweet, grassy, and entirely of this place. I transfer the leaves to woven baskets lined to drain, letting them cool for an hour before the next stage. Air drying and deveining. Once steamed, the leaves must dry gently. I spread them out on bamboo screens under a shaded eave, stirring occasionally to ensure even airflow. The leaves shrink and darken slightly as moisture escapes. After a few hours, I move to deveining. With small tweezers, I pinch out each central stem. This meticulous work ensures the final powder is smooth, without fibrous grit. As I work, the late morning sun drifts higher. Light filters through the eaves, casting moving shadows across the green leaves, a quiet dance of leaf and light. My hands move almost unconsciously, practiced from seasons of repetition. Each removed stem feels like lifting a barrier to the tea's purest flavor. The art of stone grinding. By afternoon, the processed leaves have become what we call tencha, flat, broken pieces of tea that smell of fresh-cut grass and steamed rice. It is time for the heart of matcha's transformation, stone grinding. I carry tencha into the milling room, where 2 massive granite stones await. Each wheel weighs several hundred kilograms, its surface cooled to prevent heat from degrading the color and flavor. I lift the bamboo lid, pour a measured scoop of tencha into the upper stone's hollow, and begin to turn the handle at a slow, steady pace, no more than 2 revolutions per minute. Granite teeth pressed tooth against stone, the tencha yields its fine powder. Over the next 3 hours, I never rush. I maintain a constant rhythm. Turn, measure the powder's texture, adjust the handle's angle, turn again. Occasionally, I pause to sift against a fine mesh, returning coarser bits to the stones for another pass. The room grows fragrant with matcha's emerging aroma, a soft sweetness intertwined with deep vegetable notes. Particles rise in delicate dust motes, catching the slanting light. By mid-evening, the bowl beneath the stones holds a pile of matcha so fine it feels like spun silk. Sifting and storage. Once ground, I transfer the matcha through a conical sifter, ensuring every grain is uniformly fine. The green powder falls like rain into lacquered tins that bear my family crest. I seal each tin immediately, expelling excess air to preserve freshness. Labeling emerges as a personal ritual. Date, harvest block, and grade carefully inscribed. I place the tins in a cool, dark storeroom, temperature and humidity controlled to protect color and flavor. The matcha will rest here for weeks, mellowing before its first ceremonial use. My year among the fields. My life follows the rhythm of these steps year after year. In spring, I harvest. In summer, I steam and dry. In autumn, I grind. In winter, I maintain equipment and prepare for the next cycle. Each season brings its own tasks and its own quiet joys. I remember my first harvest at age 12, guided by my grandfather's patient hand. He taught me to read the leaves' sheen, to feel their firmness, and to honor their fragility. His eyes would twinkle as he said, "The leaf chooses you. Listen." To this day, I pause at each row, listening for the right moment to cut. Reflections on Matcha's path. As I close this chapter on my journey through Uji's tea fields, I invite you to imagine the path your bowl of matcha has taken. Dawn's mist on shaded leaves, the hiss of steam, the gentle whistle of granite stones, and finally the emerald powder in your palm. Each sip connects us to that rhythm, nature's, artisans, and the rituals, guiding us towards presence. When you next whisk matcha at home, remember that every whisk carries the echo of my morning's footsteps and the whisper of centuries-old stones. In that emerald swirl, may you find both history and stillness, and in the journey from leaf to powder, a moment of calm reflection. I have waited for this moment all season, the culmination of my care in the fields, my kiln fires, my stone grinding, and my careful tending of utensils. Today, I host a Chaji, a full-length tea gathering that weaves together meal, tea, sweets, and ceremony into a seamless meditation on harmony. As I guide you through each step, imagine yourself at my side, feeling the tatami beneath your feet, hearing the soft whisper of the bamboo whisk, and tasting the delicate transitions from savory kaiseki to thick tea to thin tea. Preparing the space. Before dawn, I arrive at the tea house carrying bundles of fresh green tea leaves for steaming later, and trays of seasonal confections for the guests' reception. The sukiya structure stands quietly amid moss and bamboo, its clay walls cool to the touch. I remove my sandals at the larger gate, pausing on the engawa to inhale the morning air. In the tokonoma, I adjust the scroll, a single line of calligraphy by my teacher reading Ichi Ikkai, one time, one meeting, and place a slender vase holding a solitary sprig of early plum blossom beside it. I sweep the entry hall, removing stray leaves, and wipe the tatami seams with a dry cloth. Every surface must be free of dust. Cleanliness first purifies the space, then the mind. At the hearth, I test the kama's embers from last night's hearth. If any coals remain too cool, I add fresh charcoal, listening for the kettle's ring, once, twice, to signal that water will soon boil. My attendants deliver low lacquer trays of confections, small sweets made of rice flour, bean paste, and chestnut, shaped like spring flowers. These will accompany the chakai, the informal reception preceding the formal tea. I arrange each tray with precision, 3 sweets per plate, aligned along the tray's axis, with an ivory fork at the side. I step back, bowing to the prepared space, then retreat to the roji to await my guest's arrival. Guest arrival and chakai. At the outer gate, I greet my guest, today a fellow practitioner who has journeyed from another province. He bows deeply, then removes his clogs, entering the roji barefoot. Together, we traverse the moss-lined path, pausing at the tsukubai. He stoops to cleanse his hands and rinse his mouth with the cool spring water, physical and symbolic purification. In the reception room, we sit across from one another on cushions of woven grass. With measured slowness, I present the first tray of sweets and a bowl of warm spring water in a lacquer bowl. He admires each confection, its form, its color, before taking the first bite. The sweet dissolves on his tongue, soft, subtly sweet, flavored with yuzu zest that enlivens the palate. The water cleanses any lingering sweetness, preparing him for the next. We converse in hushed tones, an exchange of seasonal greetings and shared appreciation for the plum blossom's arrival. My guest compliments the scroll's brushstroke. I accept with a bow, mindful that praise and acknowledgement are offerings of respect. When the chakai concludes, I gesture toward the nijiriguchi. We remove our belts, bow low, and enter the main tea room through the small opening, leaving behind the comfort of words and stepping into the ceremony's silent heart. Kaiseki, the seasonal meal. Once inside the 3 tatami mat chamber, I guide my guest to the kaiseki tray, a meal of 6 courses served in nested lacquer boxes and ceramic bowls. Kaiseki is not mere sustenance, it's an exercise in harmony, wa, and respect for nature's cycle. Today's menu celebrates early spring. Sakizuke, a small cup of chilled clear soup, osumashi, with a single stalk of fresh bamboo shoot and a sliver of snap pea floating like a jade petal. Hasun, a tray combining mountain vegetables and ocean deliciousness, lightly grilled sweet fish, pickled bracken fern, a miniature rolled omelet tinted pale green by spinach puree. Mukozuke, a plate of sashimi, thin slices of sea bream laid atop a pale green leaf, garnished with a drop of plum vinegar and edible blossom petals. Takiawase, simmered daikon radish and shiitake mushroom in a subtle dashi broth, their earthy sweetness deepened by a hint of soy. Yakimono, a charcoal-grilled cherry blossom salt-dusted mackerel, its skin crackling, releasing warm aroma. Suzakana, a palate cleanser, vinegar jelly made from kudzu root, topped with a tiny cube of seasonal fruit. As my guest partakes of each course, I silently refill his tea bowl with water from the kama, readying it for the next seasonal infusion of tea. I observe his pace, neither hurried nor idle, and offer more commentary on the dish's provenance only when invited. This balanced attention upholds respect and deepens connection between host and guest. Cleansing utensils. With the meal concluded, I clear the kaiseki vessels and replace them with a fresh cloth, fukusa, and my chawan. I move to cleanse each utensil in sight. The chashaku is purified with the fukusa, the chawan rinsed in the kama's hot water, the natsume, thin tea caddy, wiped, and the kenzui, wastewater bowl, shown to the guest before being set aside. Every formal cleansing demonstrates purity, the removal of physical residue, and the reaffirmation of spiritual clarity. Thick tea, koicha. Now comes koicha, the thick tea that encapsulates Chado's profound silence and communion. I kneel before the hearth, whisk at hand. The chashaku scoops 3 heaping scoops of high-grade usucha-grade matcha from the chair into the chawan. With the chasen, I add a small amount of water just off the boil. In 3 deliberate strokes, I blend powder and water into a glossy, syrupy consistency. Holding the bowl toward my guest, I turn its front toward him, gesture of utmost respect, and he receives it with 2 soft hands. He sips methodically, drawing the tea's sweetness without pause, allowing foam only at the edges. The bowl returns empty. I pause to admire the tea's sheen and the bowl's warmth, then wipe the rim and offer it for my sip. This shared bowl, 1 bowl for 2, erases distinctions between host and guest. In the quiet that follows, all thoughts beyond the present moment drift away. My own breath steadies as I focus on the tea's weight in my hands, the warmth on my palms, and the mingled aroma of steamed leaves and charcoal. Thin tea, usucha. After koicha's stillness, the mood lightens for usucha, or thin tea. I replace the chaer with the usucha natsume, replenishing the chashaku with a single heaping scoop of matcha. I add more water, enough to allow vigorous whisking, and blend into a frothy, verdant swirl. The chasen's tines sing softly against the chawan's interior, creating a gentle hiss that underscores the ceremony's momentum. I serve each guest individually, carrying the bowl with care, turning it once to present its front and returning a half pace before bowing. The guest returns the bowl when finished. I cleanse and set aside before preparing the next. The transition from thick to thin tea mirrors the ceremony's arc, from dense absorption to light communion, from inward focus to shared delight. Final cleansing and departure. With usucha complete, I perform a final cleansing. The chasen is rinsed and placed upright in its undle, the chashaku is cleaned with the fukusa, the chawan and natsume are wiped and set aside. I extinguish the hearth, saving embers for tomorrow's gatherings. My guest bows deeply, stepping through the nijiriguchi into the roji. I follow, preparing fresh offerings of confections and tea leaves for the journey home. At the garden's gate, we exchange final bows, no words needed, for the silent understanding of one time, one meeting lingers between us. Reflections on the Chaji. Every Chaji is both ceremony and conversation, without words, between host, guest, and whole environment. The kaiseki meal grounds us in the season's harvest. Koicha unites us in contemplative harmony. Usucha rekindles communal flow. In hosting, I become both poet and choreographer. Each gesture a verse, each movement a stanza. I guide the rhythm so that no moment jolts or lingers beyond its due, leading guest and host through an intricate dance of purity, respect, harmony, and tranquility. As you imagine yourself kneeling beside me, feeling the tatami's texture and hearing the kettle's ring, may you taste the kaiseki's delicate lines and feel the matcha's lush embrace. In this living ritual, every detail, bowl, whisk, flame, flower, speaks of centuries of devotion. When you next prepare matcha, carry with you the Chaji's essence, slow your breath, align your movements, and honor the shared space between you and your guest. In that mindful unfolding, you continue the way of tea. One bowl, one moment, one heart. I step through the nijiriguchi, bowing low as always, and enter the hushed chamber where the way of tea unfolds not merely as ceremony, but as meditation. In every measured gesture, laying the whisk beside the bowl, lifting the kettle lid, pausing between scoop and pour, I discover a quiet path inward, a stillness that mirrors the season's ebb and flow. In this chapter, I will walk you through the spiritual underpinnings of Chado, from its roots in Zen to the breath and movement that bind host, guest, and tea into a living tapestry of presence. Zen Foundations of Tea. I first encountered the resonance between tea and Zen as an apprentice, kneeling beside my master in the temple's meditation hall. As the chanting faded and the gong's final note dissipated, he poured me a bowl of thick tea. "Tea is silence made manifest," he whispered. "In it, you taste emptiness and form." Zen teachings emphasize mushin, no mind, a state free of clinging thoughts, judgments, and anxieties. In Zazen, sitting meditation, one returns again and again to the breath, observing sensations without attachment. Chado extends this mindfulness into movement. Each step across the roji, each placement of utensil, each sip of tea becomes a moment of complete presence. Preparing the mind, Shokyaka's practice. Before hosting a ceremony, I engage in my own ritual of preparation. I wake before dawn and sit in the temple's inner hall, back straight, eyes lowered. My breath settles into a steady tide. Inhale, exhale, inhale. In those minutes of stillness, I release yesterday's worries and tomorrow's plans, rooting myself in this single unfolding moment. Next, I clear the tea room without haste, sweeping stray leaves, polishing wooden thresholds, arranging bamboo. Each action performed as a form of walking meditation. My attention rests on the tactile, the smooth curve of the broom's handle, the resistance of dust under the cloth, the soft warmth of polished wood. By the time the hearth's embers glow, my mind is as clear as the water I will pour. Walking the roji, a moving meditation. Inviting guests to the tea house, I guide them through the roji, but I too traverse this path with heightened awareness. The irregular tobishi underfoot, the moss's softness, the whisper of bamboo leaves overhead, all engage the senses. I walk slowly, aligning each footfall with the breath. Inhale as I raise my foot, exhale as I place it on stone. The deliberate pace dissolves the boundary between inner and outer. By the time I reach the tsukubai, I crouch to cleanse my hands and mouth, not merely for hygiene, but as a physical enactment of letting go, washing away distractions and arriving fully. Kneeling and bowing, humility as practice. In the tea room, kneeling in seiza posture can challenge the body, but it also aligns mind and heart. I feel the tatami's subtle give beneath my ankles, the steady balance of hips upon heels. Each bow, whether a simple nod to the guest or a deep ray toward the alcove, becomes an offering. Humility, jaku, is one of Chado's 4 pillars. In lowering my head, I remind myself that ceremony is not performance, but communion. The host's ego dissolves as I turn the bowl toward the guest or offer the bamboo scoop. In those moments, I am not master or servant, but fellow pilgrim on the path of tranquility. Whisking as breath awareness. When preparing usacha, I hold the chazen lightly, 2 fingers cradling the bamboo handle. As I whip water and powder, the tines blur into a soft vortex. The gentle fwa-fwa sound synchronizes with my breath. Inhale for 3 whisk strokes, exhale for 3, or vice versa. This rhythmic motion becomes a mantra, hand and whisk moving as one, breath and tea merging into unified flow. My mind follows the bamboo's bend, the tea's foam rising, the kettle's steam curling upward. In each cycle, I return to this bowl, this breath, that is all. Flower arrangement, chabana, and transience. Before the ceremony, I choose a single seasonal stem for the tokonoma, perhaps a plum blossom in early spring, a pale iris in summer, a single maple leaf in autumn, or a sprig of pine in winter. I arrange it in a rustic bamboo vase with only 3 support points, creating a simple yet evocative display. Ikebana and Chabana emphasize transience. A blossom will fade, a leaf will fall. By honoring this brief perfection, we confront impermanence, mujo, and learn to cherish each moment's beauty. Guests may study the stem's curve, the bud's promise, or the leaf's veins, and in that attention find their own hearts opening to life's fragility. Silence and sound, the heartbeat of ceremony. For much of the Chaji, we sit in near silence. Yet silence is never empty. It is filled with the soft crackle of charcoal, the hushed drip of water, and the whisked whisper. I pause between movements, allowing the room's ambient sounds to emerge. Sometimes I lightly tap the kettle with the bamboo ladle end, producing a singular clear tone, a call to awaken presence. The sound resonates like a temple bell, brief but rich with echo, drawing all attention inward to this place, this bowl, and this breath. Tea as offering, body, word, and mind. In Zen, the concept of Sanzen holds that enlightenment may arise in daily life, not only in meditation. In Chado, the host's body, word, and mind become the offering. The body in humble service, the word in gentle explanation only when needed, and the mind in open, compassionate awareness. I recall one gathering when a guest, troubled by personal grief, asked a simple question: "Why does tea taste different each time?" I answered not with doctrine, but with a bowl of koicha, inviting him to taste impermanence and change. As he drank, I saw tears gather, tears not of sorrow, but of release. In that moment, tea became healing, ceremony became compassion, and silence became solace. Profiles in Mindfulness, my teacher, the Zen monk. My primary guide was Rensho Osho, a Zen monk whose lineage traced to Daitokuji Temple. He taught that each Chado movement mirrors a posture in Zazen. Before allowing me to host, he insisted I sit in meditation for years, learning to watch thoughts arise and pass. He said, if your mind wanders while pouring water, the tea turns bitter. I learned to pour mindfully, choosing a single thought like I pour tea, and returning to it whenever distractions arose. Over time, I found the boundary between meditation cushion and tea room dissolving. The practice became seamless. Emptiness and fullness in the bowl. When I hold the empty chawan toward my guest, I imagine it like the mind before meditation, clear, open, receptive. After the tea, the bowl is empty once more, but now it carries the memory of warmth, fragrance, and shared presence. This cycle of emptiness and fullness echoes Zen's teaching that form is emptiness and emptiness is form. The bowl's outer shape is form, its inner space is emptiness. Without the void, it cannot hold tea. Without the form, it cannot contain. In each Chaji, I learn anew that holding both opposites in harmony is the essence of practice. Daily life as ceremony. I do not confine Chado to the tea room. At home, I wash dishes with mindful attention to water's flow. I fold my robes as if arranging a heart's offering. I bow before meals as if entering the roji. Each simple act, brushing my hair, lighting an incense stick, greeting a neighbor, becomes an opportunity to awaken the way of tea in everyday life. I once guided a corporate executive who felt tea was too slow, too formal. I asked her to prepare matcha at home, mindfully. She returned a week later transformed. I realize now my hurried emails lack presence. When I whisk tea, I know each breath counts. In that, Chado's spirit transcends cultural boundaries. Anyone can practice mindfulness in any setting. Reflections on Mindful Path. As we conclude this journey through tea's spiritual dimensions, I invite you to bring mindfulness into your own rituals. Whether pouring coffee, washing hands, or tying shoelaces, slow your breath, attend to each movement, and honor the moment you inhabit. In the tea room, we bend our bodies before the bowl. In life, we bend our minds before experience. In each pause between I often think of the lineage of Chado as a river. Its headwaters rising centuries ago and branching into tributaries that carry tea's spirit to every corner of the world. Each generation draws from this current, shapes it by their hand, and passes it on, renewed yet rooted in the same source. In this chapter, I share how the way of tea has been transmitted through family schools, how I found my own place within this flow, and how today's practitioners navigate tradition and innovation in a changing world. The Iamoto system, custodians of tradition. The Iamoto system, literally house founder, serves as Chado's central axis of authority and preservation. Originating in Rikyu's time, the Iamotos are heads of a tea school or house, responsible for certifying instructors, setting standards, and safeguarding curricula. 3 major houses trace directly to Sen no Rikyu's descendants. Urasenke, based in central Kyoto, emphasizes usucha, thin tea, open instruction, and adaptations for modern life. Omotenke, also in Kyoto, maintains a restrained, introspective style, favoring traditional forms and close lineage training. Mushakoji Senke, smaller in reach, balances elements of both schools and places special emphasis on raku-ware and devotional aspects. As I grew in my practice, I received an invitation to train under the 3rd generation Urasenke Iamoto, Sen Soshitsu 15, whose gentle presence embodied Wa-kei Seijaku. In his austere tea room, I observed how every gesture was held to a living standard, from the precise angle of the chashaku to the choice of calligraphy in the tokonoma. Apprenticeship, the path of years. Entering formal apprenticeship is not a matter of months, but of years, often decades. My own journey began at age 20 under Master Nakagawa, an Omotenke instructor whose lineage stretched back to Rikyu's own student Furuta Oribe. Each morning, I carried firewood, polished floors, and prepared kettles, tasks that might seem menial but were offered with utmost respect. Instruction followed strict progression. Introductory etiquette, Shokyaku Nyumon, learning basic bows, handling of fukusa, and simple temai, tea procedures. Senchado, sencha practice, studying leaf tea service to build foundational skills in hospitality and utensil care. Usucha fundamental forms, mastering thin tea procedures, understanding timing, and perfecting whisk patterns. Koicha and kaiseki, progressing to thick tea and meal service, learning seasonal menus and tray arrangements, teaching and ceremony composition, guiding novice students, developing personal temai adaptations, and composing small gatherings. Throughout, progress is measured less by examinations and more by observation, by my teacher's quiet nod, the subtle ease in my movements, or his decision to entrust me with hosting a small chakai. Lineage and personal expression. While lineage binds us to tradition, it also provides a foundation for personal expression. My first formal temai under Master Nakagawa allowed only for minor variations. ink scrolls chosen from approved lists, flower stems selected from temple gardens. Yet as I advanced, he encouraged me to explore my own aesthetic within bounds. A winter gathering beneath plum blossoms, featuring a bowl I crafted in my own kiln, paired with a poem I composed in the tokonoma. This balance, honoring Lineage's strictures while allowing the heart's voice, is what breathes life into Chado. Rikyu himself innovated, designing new tea houses and utensils to articulate his wabi-sabi vision. In the same spirit, I learned to blend traditional method with subtle contemporary notes. A charcoal brazier fashioned by a local blacksmith, a bamboo scoop carved from a grove newly planted by my students, or scrolls painted by a modern calligrapher who interprets Zen in bold strokes. Modern challenges, fast pace, and global reach. In today's world, the way of tea faces both opportunity and challenge. Urban professionals seek mindfulness practices. Travelers crave authentic cultural experiences. Social media users share tea videos online. Yet the Iamoto system and traditional apprenticeship can seem dauntingly slow or insular. I recall hosting a workshop in New York City, guiding a dozen eager participants through a mini Chaji in a converted loft. Their eyes shone with curiosity, but their phones hovered close, ready to capture Instagram moments. After the session, many admitted they struggled to sustain the silence and formality. They desired the tea's calm, but balked at the discipline required. Balancing authenticity with accessibility demands innovation, inviting global students into formal training while offering shorter introductions, live streaming tea lessons with precise captions, creating bilingual manuals that explain terms and gestures. Yet every adaptation risks diluting the transmission. In each decision, I weigh Lineage's integrity against the yearning in modern hearts to find stillness. Profiles, young apprentices, and innovators. At my school in Kyoto, I mentor 3 apprentices, young artists whose backgrounds range from graphic design to molecular biology. Keiko, age 26, a fashion illustrator, experiments with tea-themed watercolor motifs for scrolls. Her delicate porcelain cups feature hand-painted tea leaves. She dreams of opening a mobile tea house in a vintage bus. Taro, age 22, studied engineering and now builds digital sensors that monitor hearth temperature. His small device attaches to the furo, transmitting real-time data to a host's tablet, ensuring consistent heat without intrusive thermometers. Aya, age 24, trained in French cuisine, works on modern kaiseki menus, blending Japanese seasonal ingredients with contemporary plating. Each apprentice honors tradition, practicing temai daily while offering fresh perspectives. Their innovations push me to question assumptions. Must a tea house be static, or can it be a pop-up installation? Can a scroll be digital, projected onto an earthen wall? In their youthful creativity, I glimpse tea's future. International communities. Tea beyond Japan. Over the past 3 decades, tea schools have sprouted worldwide: Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, and beyond. I have taught in Stockholm, Mumbai, and Vancouver, meeting practitioners who host weekly tea gatherings in living rooms, botanical gardens, and cultural centers. They come from diverse backgrounds: engineers, educators, retirees, seeking a ritual that marries art, mindfulness, and social connection. In each locale, they adapt to local materials: olive wood scoops in Greece, clay bowls fired in American kilns, bamboo sourced from regional groves. Yet when they kneel for usucha, wipe the fukusa, and bow before the bowl, they tap into the same Chado current that Rikyu first channeled. Their challenges, for example finding pure spring water or sourcing powdered matcha, test their devotion but also deepen their understanding of tea's essentials. Preserving the core, essential teachings. Despite innovations, the Iamoto and senior teachers emphasize safeguarding core principles. Wa, harmony. Utensils, space, and participants find unity, and modern riffs must still honor silent balance. K, respect. Every guest, every tool, and every moment is treated with reverence, regardless of digital screens or pop-up venues. Sei, purity. Not merely cleanliness, but purity of intention, ensuring adaptations do not obscure Chado's spiritual depth. Jaku, tranquility. Cultivating stillness amidst life's noise, teaching students to leave behind preconceptions and distractions. As I certify a new instructor or approve a modern kaiseki menu, I return to these 4 pillars, testing each innovation against them like a spiritual compass. My own lineage, passing the torch. Last autumn, I hosted my first formal ceremony presiding entirely on. When I reflect on how the way of tea has woven its threads through history, I am struck by its extraordinary capacity to remake itself in daily life. Chado began as a ritual of elite gatherings in Kyoto's hills, yet today it blooms in kitchens, offices, and gardens around the globe. In this final chapter, I invite you to walk with me beyond the tea house, into living rooms bathed in dawn light, urban balconies overlooking cityscapes, and solitary moments at a bedside table, where tea becomes art and ritual, a conduit for presence in every act. We will meet contemporary artists, explore installations inspired by Chado, and discover simple practices you can adopt to infuse your ordinary routines with mindful tranquility. From tea room to everyday space. I still remember my first pop-up tea gathering in a converted loft in Brooklyn. The whitewashed brick walls bore abstract canvases. A steel and glass mezzanine overlooked our low tables. My Iamoto had cautioned, "The heart of tea is not the setting, but the spirit you bring." So I carried my lacquer trays and bamboo vases into that modern interior, laid tatami mats upon concrete floors, and arranged a single wildflower in a ceramic cup. Guests arrived in sneakers and hoodies, their eyes curious. We washed hands at a simple ceramic basin set atop a folding table, then sat cross-legged before an unadorned scroll I'd painted with sumi ink. Sheijaku no Utai, Banquet of Silence. As I served their bowls of usucha, the concrete loft melted away. Each person bowed, received tea, sipped with full attention, and returned the bowl in reverence. In that moment, tea, no matter the venue, revealed its capacity to transform space and mind. Tea as contemporary art. Tea's aesthetics have long influenced Japanese visual arts, ink paintings, ceramics, bamboo sculpture. But in recent years, artists have drawn directly on Chado's principles to create installations, performances, and multimedia works. Aki Tanaka's Breath of the Bowl, 2019. In a Tokyo gallery, Aki suspended translucent resin bowls from thin wires, each bowl gently rotating by concealed motors. A microphone under each captured ambient gallery sound, footsteps, hushed whispers, and released them as soft, breath-like pulses through small speakers. Visitors moved among the floating bowls, experiencing tea's stillness refracted into sound and space. Lucas Moreno's Modern Roji, 2022. At an art fair in Barcelona, Lucas constructed a minimal garden of industrial materials. Steel plates cut into stepping stone shapes, synthetic moss, and backlit acrylic lanterns. He challenged viewers to walk the path barefoot, provided socks, pausing at each platform to contemplate the contrast between natural symbolism and manufactured surfaces. His installation invited reflection on how technology and tradition intersect. Yara Al-Sadat's Tea of Exile, 2023. Drawing on her experience as a refugee, Yara created a performance piece in which she brewed wild harvested herbs and grasses rather than camellia leaves. She invited immigrant communities to contribute botanicals from their homelands, blending them in a communal kettle. The tea house, an ephemeral tent, echoed Rikyu's Sukiya, with earthen walls painted by local children. Through this ritual, Yara wove tea's hospitality into narratives of displacement and belonging. Visiting these works, I was reminded that tea, like art, invites us to perceive familiar elements anew: water, vessel, fire, and human intention. In each installation, the core of Chado, mindful attention, reverence for materials, celebration of impermanence, shone through, even as the forms evolved. Designing a home tea nook. You don't need a gallery or loft to practice tea as art. I encouraged my friend Marisol, a graphic designer living in Mexico City, to carve out a tea nook in her compact apartment. She repurposed an old wooden sewing table, sanded it to reveal its grain, and placed it near a window overlooking jacaranda trees. Materials. She laid a woven mat under the table's legs, sourced a set of small raku chawan from a local artisan, and created a simple shelf for her chasen and shashaku. Plants. A potted fern and a single sprig of bougainvillea in a glass bottle served as her seasonal display. Lighting. A low-wattage pendant lamp provided gentle illumination in the evenings. Each morning, Marisol brewed a bowl of usucha before checking email. She found the deliberate process, warming the kettle, whisking powder, holding the bowl, slowed her mind and anchored her day. Over time, she added a small incense burner and a scroll she commissioned from a calligrapher, gradually crafting a personal sanctuary in urban bustle. Tea and digital mindfulness. In our technology-driven lives, tea can be a bridge between screens and presence. I worked with Taro from Chapter 7 to develop a tea timer app. Brewing guide. Step-by-step prompts for water temperature, tea dosage, and whisking rhythm. Mindful reminders. Gentle bell sounds every minute to guide breath-synced whisking. Journaling feature. Space to record tea notes and reflections after each session. I encourage students to disable notifications before opening the app, creating a digital roji that shutters distractions. As the timer chimes return you to the whisk, you relearn the art of refocusing, just as Zazen practitioners return to the breath when thoughts wander. Incorporating chabana into interior design. Flower arrangement need not be confined to tea rooms. My student Aisha, an interior stylist in Dubai, taught me how she integrates chabana into modern homes. Single stem focus. Rather than elaborate bouquets, she places 1 or 2 seasonal stems, olive branch in winter, desert lily in spring, in minimalistic vessels. Natural imperfection. She selects branches with scars or asymmetry, celebrating wabi-sabi's imperfect beauty. Placement. She positions the vase on a side table near a coffee station or entryway, inviting guests to pause and observe before daily routines.
Aisha found that clients began greeting each vase like an old friend, drawn into its quiet presence, encouraged to notice subtle seasonal changes. Tea in workplace rituals. I have consulted with corporate teams seeking to weave mindful rituals into office life. In one high-tech firm, we co-created a tea break program. Scheduled pauses. Twice daily, an announcement invites employees to gather at a designated tea corner. Shared brewing. A communal kettle and set of bowls are used. Participants take turns leading a short guided usucha ceremony. Silent reflection. After sipping, each person shares a one-word intention for the afternoon: focus, kindness, balance. The result: teams report decreased stress, improved communication, and a deeper sense of connection. Tea becomes an act of collective care. Personal rituals, morning and bedtime tea. For many, tea's ritual can bookend the day with mindfulness. Morning matcha. Rather than coffee's jolt, I recommend a small bowl of usucha upon waking. Begin by heating water on a portable stove, measuring tea powder with the chashaku, and whisking slowly. As steam rises, set an intention, perhaps gratitude or openness. Evening herbal ceremony. Though non-traditional, I blend kamairicha, pan-fried tea, with local herbs, lemon balm, lavender, for a soothing infusion. I serve it in a small ceramic cup, dim the lights, and sit in silence for 5 minutes before sleeping. The act of brewing and sipping signals the mind to unwind. These simple practices need not follow strict temai. They honor tea's essence: attention to process, reverence for materials, and invitation to presence. Teaching tea to children. I have led workshops for families, guiding children aged 6 to 12 in a playful Chado introduction. Storytelling, explaining tea's history through a simple fable of a monk and a restless mind. Garden hunt, identifying tea elements at home: fresh herbs, clean water, colorful bowls. Mini whisking, using plastic bowls and silicone whisks to froth herbal teas. Gratitude circle. Each child shares one thing they notice: a scent, a color, a sound.
I have shared tea in the hush of private gatherings and the intimacy of studio lofts. But one of Chado's greatest gifts is its power to unite entire communities through seasonal festivals, neighborhood Chano-yu pop-ups, and public exhibitions. In this chapter, I'll guide you into the bustling world beyond the tea house, where the way of tea blooms in open air, ringing bells, and shared bowls passed among strangers turned friends. The Cherry Blossom Tea Festival. Each spring, my hometown temple hosts Sakura no Chakai, a cherry blossom tea festival beneath blooming weeping sakura. Before dawn, I arrive with my portable furo and a set of lacquered trays. Long wooden benches are set in rows beneath branches heavy with pale pink petals. I bow to the monks arranging lanterns, then unpack my kettle and utensils. At mid-morning, the crowd gathers. Families on picnic blankets, students clutching sketchbooks, elders with cameras. Without formal invitation, each visitor may step forward, bow at the low black lacquer table, and receive a bowl of thin tea and a wagashi shaped like a sakura petal. The bowls all differ, some raku, some karatsu, some simple porcelain, yet each is handled with the same reverent pause. I watch as dozens of bowls circulate, a young couple sipping shyly, an elderly man closing his eyes to savor the flavor, children giggling as they watch petal confetti swirl atop the tea. In that shared silence, petals drift down like confetti, and strangers become a fleeting community bound by one time, one meeting. Community tea pop-ups. Beyond temples, I've joined neighborhood Chano-yu pop-ups in city parks. Under a rented tent, I set up a makeshift sukiya. rice mats on tarps, a hand-painted scroll taped to a bamboo screen, and a simple bamboo vase holding foraged late summer leaves. Locals wander in, office workers on lunch break, joggers pausing in sweatbands, grandparents exercising toddlers on leash. Without formality, I invite them to wash hands in a plastic basin, sit cross-legged, and receive a small bowl of matcha. Some stand, balancing the bowl. Others sit on benches. A few ask questions. Why so bitter? Or, how much powder do you use? And I answer in gentle tones, demonstrating the whisk's motion. In these pop-ups, purity and respect remain, but harmony adapts. Phones rest on benches, children chatter softly, and the kettle's ring still calls everyone's attention. I find that even the most casual participant senses a shift. A traffic hum recedes, a breath deepens, and for a moment all are part of a simple ritual, no longer rushed, simply present. Tea exhibitions and public art. Museums and galleries now host Chado experience installations. I once consulted on an exhibit that recreated a sukiya interior within a glass atrium. Visitors in business attire could kneel on tatami, view curated utensils, and watch a recorded ceremony on projections. Nearby, a digital tea garden responded to footsteps with projected moss textures, and ambient tea house sounds enveloped the space. Such exhibitions bridge art, architecture, and ritual, inviting urban audiences to cross the threshold, real or virtual, into tea's world. While purists may scoff at glass-walled tea rooms, I see them as gateways, a first step that may lead a visitor to seek out a real Roji path or enroll in a formal class. Festivals of harvest and tea. In autumn, villages celebrate Inochi no Matsuri, offering first harvest matcha and farm-to-bowl gatherings. I travel to Uji in late October, joining local farmers to serve bowls of thick tea beside newly harvested leaves. Amid rice drying racks and drying rows of mats, the aroma of roasted tea and wood smoke mingles. At these festivals, tea is both thanksgiving and testimony, gratitude for the year's yield, and communal acknowledgement of the land's generosity. I serve tea from a massive communal kettle, a single bowl offered to wheelchair users, to children, to passing tourists. No one bows formally. Instead, each holds the bowl with both hands, drinks, and smile. In that moment, ceremony becomes celebration, ritual and revelry entwined. Reflections on community ritual. When I pour tea for one, I offer intimacy. When I pour for many, I offer inclusion. In both, the heart of Chado remains wa, kei, sei, jaku. Harmony among participants, respect for tools and moment, purity of intention, and tranquility in shared silence. Whether under sakura in soft petals or beneath a city tent, community tea ceremonies remind me that the way of tea transcends walls. In offering tea to strangers, I extend the lineage's hospitality outward, seeding pockets of stillness in a world of flow and noise. As I gaze upon the river of Chado flowing into new terrains, digital, communal, interdisciplinary, I realize that the way of tea's vitality rests on its ability to adapt while honoring its core. In this final chapter, I'll explore how tea cultivators, artisans, and practitioners address environmental challenges, leverage technology for good, and envision tea's role in a rapidly changing world. Sustainable tea farming practices. In Uji and beyond, climate change threatens harvests with unpredictable temperatures and erratic rainfall. I partner with farmers experimenting in agroforestry, interplanting camellia with shade trees that regulate temperature and support biodiversity. I visit one farm where chestnut and persimmon trees stand between tea rows. Their canopy filters sun, and their fallen leaves enrich the soil. At another, farmers implement rainwater catchment systems. Roof channels direct water into barrels, irrigating young bushes during drought. They press tea waste into organic compost, closing the loop and reducing dependence on chemical fertilizers. Each bowl of matcha now carries in its flavor a commitment to land stewardship. Eco-friendly utensil innovation. Artisans are rethinking materials to reduce environmental impact. Recycled bamboo whisks. Aiko Sato's workshop now sources bamboo from certified managed forests and reclaims offcuts to craft smaller practice whisks. Low-emission kilns. Raku potters experiment with electric and gas-fired kilns fitted with scrubbers to minimize particulate emissions while retaining crackle aesthetics. Biodegradable packaging. Matcha producers adopt compostable tins and plant-based seals, reducing landfill waste from traditional tins. In each innovation, I look for harmony. Does the utensil still feel true in hand? Does the bowl still sing with its ancient resonance? When the answer is yes, sustainability becomes part of Chado's evolving lineage. Tech-enhanced tea education. Digital platforms now host virtual tamai, step-by-step 3D tutorials where users rotate a tea bowl on screen, practice whisk angles under motion capture feedback, and receive AI chastenered posture correction via their webcam. I contributed to one such program, ensuring the tactile, human warmth isn't lost. Users can live stream real-time questions to instructors, blending high-tech teaching with personal guidance. While virtual practice cannot replace the warmth of charcoal and human presence, it opens doors. Learners in remote areas can access quality instruction, and busy professionals can dip into guided sessions between meetings. The key is balance. Use technology to extend tea's reach, not to eclipse the analog heart of the practice. Collaborative art and cross-disciplinary projects. Tea's ethos, simplicity, impermanence, mindfulness resonates with artists, designers, and scientists. I've co-curated projects with sound artists, composing ambient tracks from kettle sounds and whisk rhythms released as tea soundscapes to accompany meditation apps. UX designers, creating apps that gamify daily mindful tea habit building, rewarding consistency with digital tea petals. Climate scientists, hosting field seminars in agroforestry tea gardens to demonstrate sustainable land management to students and policymakers. These collaborations amplify Chado's relevance, showing how its principles enrich domains from wellness tech to environmental education. Envisioning tea's future, global tea commons. I imagine a global tea commons, an open network of tea gardens, studios, and digital platforms where knowledge flows freely across borders. Here, a tea farmer in Rwanda exchanges shade-growing techniques with one in Japan. A ceramicist in Brazil shares glaze experiments via livestream. A meditation teacher in Finland hosts bilingual tea ritual workshops. To build this commons, we need open-source teaching materials, sustainable certification standards, and cross-cultural exchange residencies. I've begun seeding this vision by hosting annual online symposia, inviting practitioners worldwide to share a bowl, a story, and a challenge. Your role in tea's next chapter. Whether you are a seasoned tea master or a curious newcomer, you hold a leaf of possibility. You might start a small tea circle with friends and neighbors, open to all backgrounds. Volunteer to plant shade trees alongside your local tea grower. Commission or craft eco-friendly utensils and champion responsible sourcing. Teach a child or colleague a simple mindful tea ritual, passing the baton of presence. Each action, no matter how small, ripples outward. As I poured tea for my first community festival, I never imagined those bowls would plant seeds in places I would never visit. Yet here we are, connected by invisible currents of tea's spirit. Final reflections. In these 10 chapters and the epilogue that follows, we have traversed tea's journey from dawn-lit fields to public festivals, from private meditation to global commons. The way of tea remains a living practice, rooted in core values yet flowering myriad forms. May you carry its essence into your world, pouring with intention, bowing with humility, tasting with presence, and stewarding with care. In every bowl you share, you craft the next verse of tea's unfolding story. As I set down my whisk and close the lid on the kettle for the last time tonight, I feel gratitude, deep and steady, for the journey we have shared. From mist-clad groves in Uji to pop-up ceremonies beneath cherry blossoms, from private bowls of matcha to community gatherings under autumn lanterns, we have walked a path guided by harmony and stillness. The way of tea is not a destination, but a living conversation between leaf and water, host and guest, tradition and innovation. Each chapter you have read, each gesture you have imagined, is a step along that path. Yet the true ceremony begins now, in your own hands, in your own space, with whatever simple cup or bowl you choose. In the days ahead, may you pause before the kettle's first hiss, listen for the whisper of bamboo against porcelain, and notice the gentle swirl of tea in your bowl. May you carry the 4 pillars, wa, kei, sei, and jaku, into every interaction, transforming chores into rituals and moments of presence into gift shared. Thank you for joining me in crafting tranquility. Wherever your tea journey leads, know that each breath, each sip, and each bow connects you to a centuries-old lineage and to fellow seekers around the world. Until we meet again, one bowl, one moment, may peace fill your heart as deeply as tea fills your cup. Your fellow tea practitioner.